Okay, let's change the focus and look at contract manufacturing. Jay, give us a scenario.
All right. So I'm going to steal a line from Rick's partner, Alan. It's an uncomfortable conversation to have, sort of like a prenup. But sometimes you need to have a conversation with a contract manufacturer. Many of you that are in attendance here are part of a brand, and you don't make the products yourself. Use a third-party manufacturer to produce your products. In this scenario, we have a company that uses a contract manufacturer to make its products. They have a relationship where the company simply sends a purchase order to the contract manufacturer, and the contract manufacturer sends an invoice over when the products are delivered. The company pays the invoice, and all is good. The company's had a successful relationship with their contract manufacturer for 2 years now. However, there's no agreement between the company and contract manufacturer. So, unfortunately.
So there, I just heard the buzzer. So
That's the buzzer.
there you go. Well, let me give you, let's figure out how things could go wrong. So there's no written agreement between the brand and the contract manufacturer. So let's say you now, as the brand, Jay, you get a phone call from me as a class action plaintiff's lawyer who calls you up or writes a letter to you and basically says, hey, listen, Jay, your muscle gains extreme protein has 24 grams of protein indicated on the label per scoop, right? That's what your claim says.
That's what it says.
Well, I represent a class of plaintiffs who bought your product, and we actually sent it to a lab and we tested it. We found out it's got 22 grams of protein per scoop, not the 24 grams of protein. And so we're going to be suing your company for defrauding and misleading our class of plaintiffs who paid for 24 grams, but you shortchanged each and every one of them by 2 grams.
Yeah, unfortunately, if I receive a call from Rick Collins, I'm hanging up immediately.
Well, I don't do. I'm one of the good guys. Like you, we're on the other side. But we've both dealt, and Jay and I have dealt many times with lawyers who do this. Whether it's a claim of slightly less than what's on label, or any other label deviation, or quality control issue, or contamination issue, you're going to get a phone call or a letter, and now you're the brand. Now, what do?
Correct. So in this situation, we don't have a contract. So unfortunately, something like this would be spelled out in a well-written agreement. A well-written agreement will state which party is responsible for what circumstances. So was it that the brand told the contract manufacturer, hey, put a little less protein in this batch? Was it a mistake that the contract manufacturer made internally? These things will be spelled out in an agreement. Also, another potential situation that could go wrong is the case of the recall. So without a written agreement between a company and a contract manufacturer, who's responsible in the event of a recall? It's really up in the air. A well-written agreement will state who's responsible and under what circumstances, because recalls are extremely expensive. Not only are they expensive monetarily, they can tarnish a brand's reputation. So in addition to clearly defining who's responsible in the event of a recall, brands should consider having recall insurance.
Well, you have some brands that you and I both know, Jay, who will say, well, I've got insurance. Doesn't my general liability insurance cover that?
See, unfortunately, general liability insurance, they're good at disclaiming cases such as recalls that involve recalls. So number one, speak to your insurance broker. Make sure that you understand your own insurance policy. But broadly speaking, general liability policies will not cover recalls.
Okay,
in addition,
so clearly, you should have a written contract between the brand and the contract manufacturer that spells out if something goes wrong, who's going to indemnify who? Who's going to be responsible for this problem? Is that enough? Is that agreement all you need?
If nothing else, have one of those. But in addition, you should have a separate quality agreement in place that states who's responsible for what under the GMPs. Ultimately, as the brand putting out the product, if that is you, you're responsible for what you put into the marketplace because you're the last step. You're the last step before that product goes out into the marketplace. So you're responsible for ensuring that your product has what it says it contains, that the label's correct, that it meets specifications and testing. But a good quality agreement will say who's responsible for testing raw ingredients, who's responsible for testing when the product comes in, who's responsible for providing the spec sheets and the certificates of analysis. So a good quality agreement can go a long way toward preventing future problems.